Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Tyrone Magnus.
And I'm Akasan.
Akasan and Tyrone Magnus, the two coolest black reactors
That's
in the
right.
world. We're gonna
The blackest reactors around.
We are going to do. They're our friends. I was talking with Akasan today, and I talked to Tyrone today.
They've been in our sketches. It's all above board.
Yeah.
Here, I'll switch. I'm Grace Hancock. White people.
We're going to talk about a movie called Chase. For a couple of reasons, we want to check this movie out. Chase is actually associate produced by Tyrone Magnus, and it is written and directed by a man named Michael Matteo Rossi, who I believe is John's best friend, my personal competition, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, man, you better get that best man slot. I mean, he's edging you out like
that son of a bitch.
Yeah, man, I might replace Tyrone in Vengeance, and then what are you gonna do?
Shit.
Yeah, oh God.
That's my dream role.
Of course. You should play Tyrone in the Tyrone biopic and get, ostracized from Hollywood for making that bad decision.
I will. I'm getting a sex change.
We're moving on from this bit. Mike and I go back a fair ways. I mean, we first met on the set of a no-budget found footage movie. I think that is still called Loss of Life, that he wrote at the time, and I think eventually wound up co-directing, if I'm not mistaken. And then we just kept in touch over the years and stuff like that. We see each other here and there.
Yeah. What I'll say then is because we have friends involved in this movie's perfect.
Yeah, dude,
go rent it right away.
this,
we rented it on Amazon, paid $5 ourselves to watch it.
This movie changed my life.
This was the best movie ever made. Guys, just click off the video. It's
better than sex, no alcohol required.
plenty of watch time.
50 million Stuckmans.
If you haven't heard of this movie, we got permission. Here's the trailer for you guys.
It's my passion. When you're good at something, you keep doing it.
I don't ever want you to go soft on me. Ever. I don't give a fuck if it's from 2 years ago. You go soft on me. I'm gonna make sure, Chase, that I do everything in my power.
What? You're gonna do fucking what?
We don't need him, Chase. You are too good at what you do to be pegged in or limited.
The bitch is fucking with his head. You see that, right?
She makes him happy. Fuck that.
So yeah, in case it wasn't clear, Chase, hitman, works for Miles, played by Aries Spears. Aries Spears is like, I don't want you having no family. It's
making you warm and
It's making
soft.
you warm instead of ice cold, man.
Yeah, what's cooler than being cool? Ice cold.
Ice cold. I'll start off with saying this. Some of the main takeaways I got from this, I would have to say, are the actor who plays Chase. Get it? It's a double meaning. His name is Chase. Yep. He's on the run.
And his boss is Miles.
And always on the run, those two. Damian Puckler and Aries Spears are definitely the highlights of this movie to me, and especially when they're together. Damian Puckler, I don't know what else this guy has done.
Grimm from TV.
Nope, I've never seen that. But this character is required to be an intense, lethal weapon who has a random, offbeat sense of humor from time to time. The guy is certainly not just like when you see him intimidating because, oh yeah, he's buff and he's got a beard and slick back hair. His stare, he's got these eyes that just communicate death and just don't fuck with me. He's got that look.
He does have a great hitman look. He looks like he could choke the life out of you
with his eyes and
alone.
then flex and finish you.
He is. I mean, the thing is, like, our heroes are all fit nowadays, but he was buffer than I'm used to seeing, just like a hitman.
You know what I like the attention to detail in this movie is you see him working out a bit.
Yeah.
like quite a couple times. In a lot of these like hitman movies or whatever, they eat like shit, right? And then it's like, how do they stay so fit?
They never exercise because they're always out in adventures.
But then you see this, you're like, I like that attention to detail. You see that he has to stay in shape. I love that, actually.
Yeah. Him and Aries Spears together, like their relationship, especially in the moments where they just get to actually hang out, and my guess is maybe improv a little bit. Like those were some of the most enjoyable and coalescent parts of the movie, I think.
Well, Aries Spears surprised me. Aries Spears, he's mainly known for his comedy, work on Mad TV, and he plays like the mob boss villain in this. This movie obviously takes inspiration from Drive, and there's this interesting correlation. I don't know if this is intentional or just coincidence, but in Drive, mob boss Albert Brooks, comedian, and then in this movie, mob boss Aries Spears, comedian. The title of this movie has a similar font to Drive.
So perhaps
it was intentional. But Aries Spears really sells this role. He's very, very charismatic in it, but it requires more than that. It requires this level of depth where you don't trust him underneath the surface. Like you could see how this guy can win you over with his charm, but how he's also ruthlessly cunning. And I actually really appreciated his role. But when those two have scenes together, whether it's in person or whether they're just going back and forth on the phone, I thought their chemistry was really believable. They're supposed to have this relationship where they've been best friends since they were 15 years old. I also thought the writing of the dialogue was at its best when they were interacting with one another.
Yeah.
Because this could have easily been, oh, you get into Act 2, Aries Spears betrays him, you're my enemy, Aries Spears Miles, you know? It just becomes that. It's like really one-note dialogue with them. But they kept the nuance of their history within the dialogue, that Aries Spears' motivation is kind of ridiculous. He has his best friend who he just wants to be an isolated, cold hitman, and then he feels him having a family is gonna weaken the job. So when they fight with each other or argue, they can get threatening or whatever. However, they still argue in a way where you could feel that best friendship. It's more than just a performance. It's also in the dialogue. And I like the way how Chase will react, like, dude, what is your problem?
Yeah.
Like when crazy stuff is going down, like, why are you doing this? You know, I like that attitude, because that wasn't an element I wasn't expecting in this dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. And those are the little charms that give the movie its best little, unique nuggets.
What'd you think of the cinematography, Johnny?
I thought the cinematography was all right. I mean, it's definitely cleanly captured, and there is a lot of expressive lighting for sure. I enjoyed that aspect of it. It definitely has a lot of like pinks and blue gels and stuff like that. And they
LA neo-noir.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is an indie film. I don't know what the budget is, but I assume
$100 million.
It was
right out of Tyrone Magnus's credit card.
I assume it was not $100 million.
No.
So I imagine that you're kind of dressing up a lot of what's at your disposal. And for the most part, I thought it coalesced visually pretty well anyway. I mean,
this could have been like a lot worse. If you think about it.
I've seen independent movies where I'm like, whoa. But on an audio-visual level, everything was
very competent.
Yeah, very competent.
For an art house action indie film that gets released on Amazon.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you can find stuff where you're like,
you can find
why'd you even release this? You can find a lot of that. But here, it seemed like the whole cast and crew were really giving their 100%, and definitely had to work within the limitations that I'm sure arose from time to time.
Yeah.
So there's also a supporting cast in here that can be pretty hit or miss for me. I'm not trying to make a statement here, just a fact. Quickest way to sum it up. I felt that a lot of the ethnic actors were really good. Most of the white actors were not too great.
What did you say?
John, please don't be white.
I've tried not to so many times.
Richard Reilly, who's a pretty well-known actor, has one of the more memorable scenes in the movie, and he's really good.
He's white.
He's white. He's experienced. That's why. But there's this actor here who plays a character called Burke.
This is Burke.
Burke, it was really hit or miss. Pretty much a miss for me. Like, there's a scene where Burke is interacting with a bunch of like Latino characters, and I thought all the Latino actors were very believable. They felt very lived in. Whereas Burke, I know the idea is to kind of make him feel like an outsider, but there was something about his performance where I really felt like he was just constantly trying to do it, but not being it.
He reminded me of just out of a different movie or so. He truly reminded me of Fun Boy
Yes.
from The Crow.
And Jessica Morris plays Blair, and I felt like she had some pretty good scenes, and then some scenes were a miss. But I also think a lot of that will come down to the writing of this movie. Like, there were definitely issues I had with some of the writing and some of the directing. The writing, especially in the first half, felt very repetitive. I felt like it was really hitting me on the head with backstory, but not even really diving deeper and deeper into backstory, but kind of just repeating the history and repeating the character problems at hand.
Yeah.
You know, like, Miles is tough. Oh, you're supposed to be ice cold. You have a family now,
He's got
Chase.
that family, though.
Yeah,
That
it's like-
family's getting in the way
It was
of
like the
things.
same kind of dialogue throughout. And so I felt like there was a lot being told about them and less being lived in through them. This movie takes a lot of inspiration from the movie Drive. It's very apparent. And the thing with Drive, the only reason I'm going to compare it is because the inspiration is obviously there. Drive is a very... not a
Funny.
Yeah, Drive is a rather, quiet movie. You know,
Yeah.
there are characters who talk a lot, but for the most part, it's not heavily reliant on dialogue. There's no narration. I mean, Ryan Gosling has like 10 lines in the movie.
Yeah.
He's the main character. This movie, I felt kind of abused its dialogue a little too much, especially the F word. There's a point very early on where I'm like, I get that this is a crime movie, crime action movie. There's usually swearing in here. At times it felt like he was trying to replicate or emulate the likes of Tarantino.
Well, I just reject your hypotheses.
Instead of just doing his own thing and making something unique, because this does pretty much fall under a rather cliche, predictable plot. Can it be fun? Yeah. But I also feel like they could have gone deeper with the way characters especially are reacting to certain situations and reacting to things. When the action begins with this whole invasion with Chase, the family's attacked, the son is kidnapped, and then Blair is in the hospital and doesn't seem like conflicted at all about the situation, other than go kill him and get her son back.
There are certain flips that happen because it's a movie.
And then on physical levels, like one point, Burke is first seen, he gets like stabbed in his hand. And at first he's like, ah. But then a minute later, I had to go, wasn't he just stabbed? It doesn't seem like he's affected at all by the fact that he was stabbed.
Yeah, that's a script supervision thing
Yeah.
you might wanted to grab. So many crime movies and films like this have similar story elements. And when it comes to the writing, that was an area that I think could use the most polish, especially going into your next project or whatever. Not that you need my opinion, but the thing is, this movie has a juxtaposition for me because there is an internal narration and then there is the rest of the dialogue. And to me, the internal narration was the most interesting piece of writing in this movie because while I didn't always love that there was a narration at certain times, it was the most personal the dialogue got, and I thought it was the most expressive the word choices were. So I thought, on that front, pretty good job with the narration. I would have liked to have seen some of that character go into the actual dialogue and the actual scenes between characters, though, because I think if you trust your plot elements enough and let your characters talk about how they're seeing the situation rather than just what the situation is, that'll really bring the scenes further to life.
Sure.
And that will help set you apart from the things that are similar to a lot of other crime movies, because again, it's a genre rife with homage and borrowing and, tropes and stuff like that. So yeah, a little more focus on the character aspects of the writing and those nuances, and going even further with the cameras and making it more expressive in terms of angles and editing to complement the expressive lighting, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Because at times the way it was shot was cool, and then there were other times where I could feel what he was going for, but not really understanding the deeper emotional nuance to. That's why that director, like Scorsese, would do that editing bit or this kind of shot. There are times where the shots felt a little bit more forced and less natural and in the moment. It felt like they were trying to go for cool instead of understanding the deeper nuances behind the shots.
Yeah, less to complement the scene overall.
Yeah. But as it stands, it's an art house indie action thriller, and in that department, it pretty much succeeds because working within limitations like this, you could still feel there's a lot of care put into this movie. It's by no means a lazy film. Every actor is fully committed. You can feel everyone on the crew is fully committed. There's a lot of locations, a lot of scenes. It's very competently put together. It's just, could have used some fine tuning here or there, maybe another rewrite or whatever. Yeah. But as it stands, it's an enjoyable action thriller, and I highly recommend you guys go check it out. Rent it on Amazon like we did. This wasn't some hookup. We paid to watch this. And so can you.
$4.
$5. Round up that $4.99.
Start a petition. We need Ares Spears in more movies playing villains.
Yes.
Put that time to good use.
All right, guys. Well, did you see Chase? Subscribe.